got to look, when you talk about Dayne, you got to look at the entire year. Let's look at, Dayne on a timeline. Here's a young man that overcame a serious knee injury to start the season. Then suffered another knee injury, a severe knee injury, which required incredible rehab. Had an infection that put him back even further. Was able to get himself ready for the spring. Didn't have a great spring. But fought through that as well. The uncertainty of a second knee injury and whether I can do this. And I had a poor spring. And then to have the kind of summer and preseason camp, I think puts it in perspective as to where Dayne Crist is now this year compared to last year. He is a much better football player. He's a much better quarterback. And I would say, quite frankly and honestly, he's the kind of guy I want to coach. He's tougher mentally. He handles himself in that leadership position the way I want our quarterbacks to handle him. I didn't know Dayne very well last year. I can't tell you that I felt the same way about him last year, but I do now. And so subjectively, I think those things are things that take time, and you have to look at all of those factors when you're making your decision.
Sometimes coaches are a little bit afraid to have their quarterbacks leave the pocket or run because there's a cliff between 1 and 2. You don't have that, but you do have a guy that has some injury history. How comfortable are you with him cutting it loose, running the ball?
He has to. He can't play any other way, Eric. He has to play the game the way it comes to him. And one of the things that he did in camp was he showed great escapability. After 2 knee surgeries, he moved well, was able to extend plays, and that was obviously part of the overall decision-making process. We couldn't have somebody that couldn't extend plays in our offensive system, and he was able to do that.
At this point, how do you keep the other guys invested, knowing that you want him to be the starter for 13 games? How do you keep them invested?
I think it's like any other position, quarterback, linebacker, defensive end, they all know their role, and they have to be prepared to step in. As you know, we have a mantra, next man in, and they'll all prepare themselves. Tommy Rees will be prepared to step in if he's called on.
Brian, you've said all along that it's very close between those two. Are there any ways, subtle or big, that having Dayne as your quarterback changes what you do, allows you to do different things?
No, I think Tommy and Dayne have an offensive system in place that both can handle and accentuates what they do. So clearly, as we have talked about before, the offensive structure and system has morphed towards what they're good at doing. And they're both very smart. They're going to manage the game, and they're going to execute. And so I don't know that one does something better than the other. I think that's why I've said all along, this was a very difficult decision, but one I'm excited to make because you've got 2 very, very good quarterbacks.